The worst soldiers, Leah had learned, were the ones who never spoke. She watched Eric Stone across the combat simulator prep room, hunched over his equipment console like a shadow given form. While the other cadets laughed and boasted, Tor flexing his 4 arms, the Valorian twins comparing kill counts from last week's exercise, Eric simply existed in his corner, calibrating his rifle with mechanical precision. "Hey, human," Tor called out, his mandibles clicking with amusement. "Think you can keep up today, or should we just leave you in the drop ship?" Eric didn't look up, didn't even flinch. Leah felt her jaw tighten. She wasn't sure what irritated her more, Tor's casual cruelty or Eric's absolute refusal to defend himself. In the 6 months since he'd transferred to the Universal Union Academy, he'd spoken perhaps 20 words total. He aced every written exam, passed every physical trial with unremarkable competency, and remained utterly, infuriatingly silent. "Attention," Commander Ryan's voice cut through the noise. The Zorley officer stood at the chamber entrance, her scaled skin gleaming under the harsh lights, her 3 eyes scanning the assembled cadets with practiced assessment. "Today's exercise will be different. You'll face historical combat scenarios, real battles from member species pasts. Teams are randomly assigned. No substitutions." The holographic display flickered to life, names shuffling and pairing. Leah's stomach dropped when she saw her assignment. Team 7, Carter Stone Tor Xyles. Of course, the universe had a sense of humor. Xyles materialized beside her, the crystalline being's facets catching the light in prismatic waves. "This should prove educational," they chimed, their voice like wind through glass. "Yeah," Leah muttered, glancing at Eric, "educational." The simulation chamber was vast, capable of recreating entire battlefields with neural-synced realism. As the walls dissolved into loading screens, Leah felt the familiar tingle of the sync connecting to her cortex. Then the world shifted. Heat, immediate oppressive heat. She stood on cracked earth beneath a sky the color of old blood. The horizon shimmered with toxic haze, and the air tasted of ash and copper. Around them rose the jagged remains of what had once been buildings, twisted metal and shattered stone forming a labyrinth of death. "Arcos 9, Xyles observed, their form dimming slightly in the harsh light. "Human colony world." "Battle of Red Cliff," Leah added, memory clicking into place from her history courses. "The Zanari nearly wiped out humanity here. 70,000 defenders against 500,000 invaders. This was," she paused, checking her HUD's date stamp. "This was 200 years ago." "Humans got lucky," Tor grunted, already scanning the perimeter with his plasma rifle. "Some tactical genius held the line long enough for reinforcements, probably exaggerated by your historians." Leah opened her mouth to argue, but movement caught her eye. Eric had walked ahead, standing at the edge of what had once been a plaza. His posture had changed, straighter, harder. He was staring at something only he could see. "Stone," she called, "you good?" For a long moment he didn't respond. Then quietly, "I know this place." "It's a simulation," Tor said dismissively. "Nobody knows it." Eric turned. His eyes, Leah had never really looked at them before, were old, far too old for his face. "I know every stone, every corpse, every scream." The temperature seemed to drop despite the heat. "What are you?" Leah began, but the simulation alert cut her off. "Enemy FORCESDETCTED. XANARI assault wave incoming. Mission PARAMETRS. Hold sector 746 hours. Civilian evacuation in progress." 6 hours, Tor laughed. Against that, he gestured at the horizon where shadows were beginning to swarm, thousands of them moving with insectoid precision. "This is a joke." "No," Eric said. His voice was different now, colder. "This is real. It's a simulation, human." "This happened." Eric's words cut like razors. "Every second of it, every death. And if you want to survive the next 6 hours, you listen to me. Understood?" Something in his tone made even Tor fall silent. Eric moved with sudden, decisive purpose. Xyles, you're our scanner. Find high ground, monitor their movement patterns. Tor, your heavy weapons that collapsed building at 3 o'clock has a kill corridor. Set up there. Leah, you're with me. We're running interference. Who put you in charge? Tor started. Do it. Eric chambered around, the sound echoing in the dead air. Or die, your choice. They moved. The first wave hit like a tsunami of claws and fury. The Zanari were nightmares given form, eight-limbed horrors with exoskeletons that deflected standard rounds and neural toxins that could paralyze with a scratch. They moved in perfect coordination, a hive mind dedicated to slaughter. Eric met them without fear. Leah had seen skilled shooters before. Hell, she considered herself one. But what Eric did transcended skill. It was art, brutal and efficient. Each shot found a weak point, the soft joint beneath the primary shoulder, the exposed neural cluster at the base of the skull. He moved between cover like smoke, always 3 steps ahead of the enemy's advance. Left flank, Xyles' voice chimed through the comms. Secondary wave, 96 hostiles. Tor, redirect fire 30 degrees, Eric commanded, his voice utterly calm. Leah, grenades on my mark. 3-2 mark. She threw. The explosion ripped through a cluster of Zanari, and in the confusion, Eric pushed forward, laying down covering fire that allowed Tor to relocate. An hour passed, then 2. The Zanari kept coming, endless and relentless. Leah's arms ached, her shield was down to 30%, and somewhere in the chaos, she'd taken a glancing wound to her shoulder that the simulation made feel horrifyingly real. But Eric never slowed, never missed, never hesitated. During a brief lull as they reloaded behind a collapsed wall, Leah finally asked, "How do you know this battle?" Eric's hands moved automatically, ejecting a spent magazine, slotting in a fresh one. "Because I was here." "That's impossible. This was 200 years. "I was 14, he said quietly. "Colony kid, parents were scientists. When the Zanari came, they put everyone they could on evacuation ships. I was supposed to be on one." His jaw tightened. "But I ran back for my sister's toy. Stupid. The ship left without me." Leah stared. "You're saying you actually fought in this battle, but you'd be 214 years old." "Yes." He checked his rifle's charge. "Humanity developed cryotech after this battle, partially funded by reparations from the Union for failing to protect us. I was one of the first subjects. They woke me up 5 years ago for the Academy trials." He met her eyes. "Historical records call me the Reaper. I was the tactical genius Tor mentioned. I held Sector 7 for 8 hours, not 6. Saved 23,000 civilians." The weight of those words settled over her like lead. "I was just a kid with a rifle and no choice," Eric continued. "But I learned something that day." He stood, peering over the barricade. "No retreat, because behind us are people who can't fight, and sometimes that's the only reason you need." The Zanari came again. The final hour was hell incarnated. The enemy deployed heavy units, armored behemoths that shrugged off plasma fire. Tor's position got overrun, forcing Eric to execute a dangerous flanking maneuver that drew the Zanari into a kill zone Xyles had identified. Leah watched, awed and terrified, as Eric moved through the battlefield like death itself, each action precise and necessary. When the simulation timer hit 0, the battlefield froze. The Zanari vanished in cascades of dissolving code. The 4 of them stood among digital corpses and shattered stone, breathing hard. "Mission complete. 0 CASULTIS. Performance exceptional." Silence filled the simulator. Then Tor spoke, his voice small. "You really were him, the Reaper." Eric's shoulders slumped as the combat readiness drained from his posture. The weight seemed to return, pressing him back down into the quiet, withdrawn cadet they all knew. "That was just a name they gave me. I was a kid who refused to die." They exited the simulation chamber to find Commander Ryan waiting, along with half the Academy's tactical instructors. Word had apparently spread. The looks on their faces ranged from shock to reverence. "Cadet Stone," Ryan said carefully, "I've just reviewed your historical file. Why didn't you?" "Because it doesn't matter," Eric interrupted quietly. "That battle ended 200 years ago. Those people are still dead. I'm just still here." He walked past them all, heading toward the exit. Leah caught up with him in the corridor outside. "Eric, wait." He paused but didn't turn. "Why stay silent?" she asked. "Why let them mock you, treat you like you're nothing? You're a legend, you could." "Could what?" He looked back at her and she saw the exhaustion in his eyes. "Trade on a tragedy. Let them worship a child soldier. Leah, I fought because I had no choice. I killed because it was them or us. There's no glory in that, no honor." He shook his head. "People fight wars for 1,000 reasons, for country, for glory, for revenge. But when you're in it, when the bullets are real and your friends are dying, you realize there's only one reason that matters, because you must." "And after," Leah asked softly, "after you just want silence?" A ghost of something, not quite a smile, crossed his face. "The universe is loud enough without adding my voice to it." He started to walk away, then paused. "You did well today. Your team would be lucky to have you." Leah watched him disappear around the corner, this living relic of humanity's darkest hour, carrying his burden with quiet dignity. Back in the simulator prep room, the other cadets would be buzzing about the Reaper's revelation, turning it into legend and myth. But Leah understood now. True strength wasn't found in those who shouted their victories, but in those who bore their scars in silence, who fought not for glory but simply because the alternative was unthinkable. That night, Leah found herself in the Academy's memorial garden, looking up at the stars, at Arcos 9, somewhere out there among the infinite dark. She thought about Eric Stone, about 14-year-old children forced to become weapons, about the price of survival. The greatest warriors, she realized, are not those who never knew fear, but those who faced it and kept fighting anyway. And the truest heroes are not those who sought glory, but those who simply refused to let others die alone. In the silence of the garden, with starlight cold and distant overhead, Leah finally understood what Eric had meant. Sometimes silence isn't emptiness. It's the weight of everything you've survived, everything you've lost, everything you've become. And sometimes that's the heaviest burden of all. For what defines us is not the battles we win, but how we carry their cost. We are all, in the end, simply children playing at war, hoping that when the silence comes, we'll still recognize ourselves in it.